Rethink Red Deer came from the point of view that great cities need great citizens. They need people to get involved, to pay attention, to care about the cities that they live in, and that's a big part of where it came about. Sustainability is a key piece of what we do, and of course the whole incentive to work locally and to do things locally is a big part of what we're all about. Think back to August 2007. What was happening in August 2007 in Alberta? August 2007 was just before the boom crashed, just before the recession hit. And I recall, I'm old enough, as you can tell by looking at me, to have lived through a few booms in Alberta and a few busts. And I recall very vividly how in 2007, when everything had been for a number of years just growing like crazy and growing like crazy, and people felt that this was going to go on forever. But there was a gnawing sense in my mind when we formed Rethink Red Deer that we were losing something at the same time. And what we weren't seeing is what I have on this slide is talking about the blanks in the public agenda. Nobody was talking about the big picture of growth and development. Nobody was talking about the soul of our city, a city like Red Deer. Nobody was talking about the livability of it. They were only talking about whether we had a Best Buy like Calgary had, whether we had chain restaurants like Calgary had or like Phoenix had. And frankly, you can drive through Gasoline Alley and that strip of Shell stations and McDonald's and fast food joints and Costco and so on could be in almost any city in North America, right? It has nothing that says Red Deer about it. And the whole incentive for Rethink Red Deer was to say, let's come back, folks. Let's step back and look at community and what we are. And big part of that is citizen apathy and really just wanting to refocus people on what they're seeing and not seeing in their community. If you're not from Red Deer, you drive through the main thoroughfare in Red Deer is called Taylor Drive. Don't know if any of you have noticed that. You'll cross a bridge over the river, Taylor Bridge, named after this person, Ethel Taylor. Newspaper clipping from 1989. A new way of life must evolve for mankind. Red Deer's first female city councillor and a great community activist. She's the one who got me started in community, recruited me delivering flyers for elections when I was 14 years old. I couldn't vote yet, and I was, handing out Ethel's flyers. That's how engaging a citizen activist she was. Started back in the election campaign, just before the civic election campaign in 2007. And we did a series of presentations. I wrote a couple sort of guest editorials in a newspaper. Really, I thought it was pretty much voice in a wilderness. I'd write these letters and I'd get it off my chest and that would be the end of it. And we just had an outpouring of people who felt the same way. And we held a public meeting or two and started doing some presentations and showing back to our community, this is what we're building, folks. This is what we are doing to our community. And this is what we're not doing. Some of our early presentations focused, as you see on the slides here, about pedestrian access, and we showed mud holes and do not walk signs. We showed big box stores and the environment that they create where you cannot walk from. People get in their SUV and drive from one end of a parking lot down to the other end of a parking lot to go to the next big box store. And these desire lines, I love that term, desire lines, don't you? People desire these things, folks. They desire places to walk. They are using them. They're walking their groceries from the grocery store home. They're walking to bus stops. They're doing these things. And we're ignoring them. In winter, you go around Red Deer now, and it's frankly still shameful. It is shameful. I drive by, I walk by, I use the public transit system Many public transit stops in our city you cannot access if you're not an able-bodied person in the winter. You cannot access them. There is no clear sidewalk to them. There's windrows of snow and so on. And things like this that we saw in a community, which is road widening and road building and so on, and extra lanes being built for cars all of the time, and no sidewalks being built. And the thing that is sort of crazy making is that if we look around, we see that the old phrase, if you build it, they will come, is certainly true. And Red Deer as a community, if you're not from Red Deer, does have many wonderful assets, our river valley in particular, and we take great pride in, and we look at all these recreational trails and so on, but that's an old legacy. Peter Lougheed, you know, created the funds that went into that, and Craig Curtis and other folks in the city led the municipal planning that went into a lot of the urban parks here. But we need to do more of that asset building and the less of the just blind big box construction. So Red Deer College and others have got into carpooling and a number of areas from these prompts. So from our start, we've tended to focus on about 4 content areas or areas that we're particularly interested in. Alternative transportation, urban planning, having a conversation over breakfast with some folks saying, you know, really in many ways, I believe, and I think a lot of others do too, that it starts with urban planning. It's how we build our cities, how we build our neighborhoods, how we build our downtowns, whether we do suburbs in a traditional way or not. Healthy food sources is a big thing you've heard a lot of at this conference, and just a reduction of waste and sustainability. How we get there, engagement is the key, and as Chris Turner said in the first day, you know, he was amazed right from the start, and we've been really amazed by the feedback from the community. We've had meetings with just standing room only, and that's just great to see. Education, bringing people up to speed, and everybody, not that any one person has knowledge. I mean, I go to all of our sessions that Renee and others organize. I knew nothing about beekeeping. I knew nothing about the challenges of the loss of bee colonies and so on until I went to one of our own sessions. So that whole education thing is really key. Collaboration, this conference is a great example. Lisa started talking to us, and we immediately started talking to City of Red Deer College, and it's a sign of the community that they immediately said, sure, we're in, we want to do it. And so that kind of collaboration is the kind of thing that I think citizens ought to be leading, not just waiting for governments to say, please come give us your input, but citizens should be out there saying, here's what we want to do, join us. And then some hands-on projects. We're very active online. I hope you visit our website at some point. We've got an active Twitter account. I've been tweeting from this conference mostly under my personal account, but we've got a Facebook page as well, an events calendar, and a real coming together online for the entire community. We do monthly meetings, and just a sample of them up on the screen there. And that's where we get to explore a whole variety of different topics and bring in different speakers. And many of the speakers actually that you see at this conference today we've had in at one time or another for Rethink Red Deer. And of course the whole Pathways conference. Hands-on, we do some stuff, Renee and others in particular, food forest that we're working on outside of town. A lot of direct input to city planning and city projects. A lot of project proposals. So far, a lot of them haven't gone ahead. There's certainly a level of frustration on, you know, proposing pilot projects and so on that come back with, you know, middle management at City Hall saying why we can't do this, why we can't do this. We just have to keep pushing and saying, here's another idea, here's another idea. Let's get going, guys. Thanks very much for coming out to participate in this conference. We really appreciate you coming out in a cold February to do it. And there's our web address and email address if you want to be in touch, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, Lorne Daniel from Rethink Red Deer. And it's true.